here. Very, very strong. We've had 2 days in a row where we've pretty much just had gaps in the market, pretty much gap and goes here. So what am I looking for going into tomorrow? Working with what we got here on the SPY. uh, since we're just moving higher, we don't really have new, higher time frame key levels. So I'm just marking out, what we have and working with the best we got, right? We've been using PDLs, PDHs for context. You can see here, I kind of just have this labeled as a double top here, which it is. You can see was defended fairly nice and we ended up just gapping above. So tomorrow, PDH is going to be the main thing here as well. If we can see a break and retest above that, we can see some continuation higher, maybe a pullback long off of this or pullback short off of that. Kind of can see, it's not really that clean, but you can kind of see this little bit of a trend line setting up here. So, if we can get under, 724.85, that would be valid too. We'll also be under the previous day low if that sets up. So we'll see here. But other than that, two levels we're watching, PDH and our daily double top here, 724.85 here. So break and retest for continuation. If we do pull back here under the PDL back into this key level, we're basically just filling the gap. Or we're filling the gap here on SPY. So that's all I'm looking for there tomorrow to see, okay, do we get continuation higher or is it an inside bar day? Same thing here on Qs. I mean, the market's rallying. We're just in a crazy bull market. A lot of these names are rallying to the upside, sitting nowhere near key levels. So same thing here on Qs, right? 2 days in a row, we just had some crazy gaps here, gap and go type of days. I mean, look at our daily candles here. We've only had, one down close candle, and what was that on today's Wednesday? So what was that like on Monday? Barely. So just a crazy uptrend. So if we get under this PDL here, we can just expect a pullback here on Qs for gap fill play to the downside. If we get over the PDH here, we can just expect some continuation to the upside. Very nice trendy day today. So if it's an inside bar day, kind of just won't expect too much to go on tomorrow on the Qs. Tesla. So solid here on Tesla. It ended up, breaking 394.05. You can see this general area that Tesla is in. Just, not the cleanest on the daily. Let's go here on the 15. So actually, I'll break this down on the 1 hour. So this is how I'm looking at Tesla, right? Less is more. So you always want to come up with a high probability plan that requires less. And I hope that makes sense. So I'll explain this here. So we know Tesla was stuck in a range. Actually, I'll zoom out here. So clear as daylight here. So we can see, Tesla was stuck in a range in between, 367 and 382. We ended up breaking that range, right? We were stuck in this range. We ended up breaking that range. Then now we were stuck in a range here. And then today we ended up breaking that range. So, you ended up getting a break and retest over Tesla later into the session. As you know, I really only trade the first 2 hours of market open. That's just a hard rule of mine. Maybe I'll sit around a little bit later. Ended up taking a trade on NVIDIA anyway, but we ended up breaking this range. Now, the one thing I don't really like about Tesla tomorrow is, and I'll explain why. It depends, right? We just got to read the price action. So we're neutral. And as long as we're above 32.80, we know that we're neutral. Under 32.80, we're bearish bias. And we know this is a very strong key level here. We know this is a very strong key level. So the way I look at it is, okay, cool, less is more. This is how Tesla's going to be. A break and retest over 408.20. We're also over the previous day's high. We'll be over the weekly's high. That is a great indicator that price wants to continue higher. Or a break and retest under 382.80. And that way we don't really deal with this zone here. So I hope that visual kind of clears up what at least I'm looking at for a high probability shot, right? Shorts under 367, longs over 408. Very simple there. Now, this channel, I would like to see it turn into support, right? It's a key level here. 2 days, right? We've broken out. We definitely see there's some sellers sitting up here. So what would I like to see? A pullback long off of 394.05. But the one thing that I don't like about it is, well, if we do take this trade and it sets up, it's an inside bar day and we're pretty much just dead smack in the middle of the range and then in the middle of the PDH and the PDL. So for me personally, I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, it's a high probability shot, but it's not the highest probability shot. A short under 367, that's clear as daylight. We know who's in control, the bears. A long over 408.20, that's clear as daylight. We know who's in control, the bulls. If we pull back to 394.05, and depending on what Qs does, we could basically have a peak and fell. So you can short off of this level, right? And then we'll just be back in this range here, right? Peak and fell, back under, and then you can see, 382.80. Or, right, you just look to see, okay, well, can we turn this into support? We got the breakout on the daily today. Can we get a pullback long off of this, see some buyer step up, and then look to play the long up into 408.20? That's valid as well. So it depends. It's a bit of a, how would I explain it? To me, this is more of like an advanced setup. As I always say, like less is more. You can't go wrong with just focusing on 408 and 382. Like that's clear as daylight. You can't go wrong with that. What I love about that tomorrow as well is if one of these two plays do set up, you're also under the previous day low and the previous day high. So that's a great indicator that price wants to continue higher or lower. So less is more. If you want to make your job and life easier, just focus on 408 and focus on 482.80. This, it's a valid level, right? But it depends on the price action. It depends on what Q's is doing. You know, taking a trade off this, I see it as like, all right, you're just trying to be Q, right? Trying to be like, hey, if it works, it works. Our job is not to be correct or incorrect. It's to take our shot if it sets up. If you get a pullback long, take it. If you get a break, displacement, retest, take it. This key level, that's your safety net. That's your stop loss. If you're wrong, your thesis is invalidated, you take your good loss, you go about your day. So that's how I'm viewing Tesla going into tomorrow. So we won't know until we know. But I just want to break that down a little bit more thoroughly there. NVIDIA, today was beautiful in NVIDIA. Sucks because I ended up getting a decent trade on this just because I played with 0 DTEs. So I only got in on this candle, like full in, full out on this candle for like roughly a 12% gain. So it was still a solid trade, but it was a tough trade. And the reason it was a tough trade is because clearly, right, it's a break, retest, that's beautiful. I love my entry. I love my trade. I played it on a 0. I was a little bit more aggressive just because the week was slow. But what made this a little bit tough here was at the time I took this, Q's on the intraday was having a daily double top, and we were having a very tough time at the high of day. And we actually did reject the high of day, but NVIDIA ended up just staying strong anyway. So remember, context matters. But I took my shot, risking right under my key level, 203, psychological hold number. And you can see here today, that was just a beautiful hold on NVIDIA. So, I mean, I can't complain, right? A 15% trade in a couple of seconds doesn't get better than that. So kind of the same thing here with NVIDIA. And this is exactly what we wanted. I'm very happy that, I was able to catch this trade. I remember 2 Fridays ago, we got the breakout. We had a blow off top. We just never got it, right? It just ended up rallying, making new all-time highs. And then guess what? We fell back under. And now we were just sitting in this channel again. We held the bottom of this channel, right? Very strong here. You can see we held the bottom. Very nice. And then today we ended up getting the break and retest outside of the range. So A+ trade here. We were very patient waiting on NVIDIA. Patient pace. So what am I looking for here on NVIDIA? Well, it had a very big day today, right? PDH, PDL. So that being said, no matter what we take, kind of inside of this range, you do have to keep in mind that it's still an inside bar day, which means technically price has not moved higher or lower. So we know, what's the clear, A+ shot here. Right, long over 212.20. That's beautiful. Clear shot towards all-time highs. You got another range break. It's a continuation higher. That looks really good if that sets up. Or I highly doubt this is set up, but still, this short under the bottom of the range here, which held very, very well. So the way I'm looking at NVIDIA is, we got our 406.80. It's a key level. We can definitely see that. Respect it very well. Even today, respect it very well. So you can look for, a long off of this. Why? Bottom of the range, making your way back up to the top of the range. It's a very valid trade. But to me, it's just, I don't like this range sitting in here. What I would prefer, remember, the deeper the pullback, the better. I would prefer to see this channel, right? I would prefer to see 203, this pullback here, turn into support, and then get that. I'm okay skipping 206.80. That's fine. I'll skip that and wait for the break and retest over 212.20. It's over the previous day high. It's a valid shot. Keep in mind, 206 is a valid shot too. It just depends on, where you want to take your trade, what you like. It's a very low risk trade. You're getting in at the bottom of the range, expecting continuation up back to the top of the range. It's a good trade. But I would just prefer, the deeper pullback here to 203. Why? Because I just have more data to work with here. We know for a fact 203 is a very strong level. Very, very strong level here. So I'd rather wait for this channel to turn into support. Let's say tomorrow, we turn 406.80 into support. It's fine because, it's not that far away from the previous day high, right? We clearly see that. But if that sets up, I'll just wait for the continuation play and wait for the break and retest over 212 and then just look for the all-time highs play. That's just my preference. So for me, going into tomorrow, I'm really just focused on, 203. That's what I'll also have here, long or short off of this because it could just be a peak and fail. We see it all the time. I mean, look, we had this. That was a peak and fell. We pulled back here. We never retested this day. We just fell right under. So it could just be a peak and fell level. We won't know until we know. So if you do, you're getting in at the top of the range and it's making its way back down to 196.05. So we'll see what sets up here on the video, but my main 2 key levels that I'm going to be focused on tomorrow is just really this 203 and 212.20. If you want to give this a shot right off of 206.80, that's valid. You can definitely do so. Amazon, really nothing here for me. Amazon doesn't look good, in my opinion, just how I trade. There's no key levels up here. It's sitting at all-time highs. We've had 2 days in a row where just inside bar day. So really just nothing up here for me on Amazon. Not even a key level here, even on the 4 hour to the downside. Maybe you can mark that out. 3 reactions, sure, if you want to look for, a break and retest to the downside, but it's a very strong name. The market's moving higher, so not really a name that I'm looking to short unless it broke structure on the higher time frame. So really nothing there that I like on Amazon. Microsoft, just consolidated, right? Not a good looking name. I broke this down as well. Pretty much hands off on this name. Going into tomorrow, I mean, you can see our 416.45 is being respected today. Our 404.85 being respected. So one of these trades where you just let it come to you, right? Longs over 416. I really like shorts under 404.85. I think that's just a better looking trade. There's nothing in its way. Right to the downside, look left, it looks clear, it looks good compared to going long into this madness. So Microsoft, just another name that's just it's consolidating in between ranges. Not really a name that I like. It's been what 4 days in a row that it's just been an inside bar day respecting the key levels. So based on what I'm looking at, I think we all can agree that the higher probability shot is going to be under this 404.85. Shorts under that, I'll take that all day. That's a beautiful trade. Nice target down here. You can see there's some buyers who keep stepping up here. The body of the candle closed above 404 this day. So that's the higher probability shot in my opinion. If you really want to go long, this isn't bad, right? You're going long, bottom of the range before we get to the top of the range. If you want to sit on your hands and just wait for this range break over 427.20 to get rid of all that madness, you don't have to trade in that. That's valid too. So my favorite play on Microsoft is really shorts under 404.85. That's like my favorite play if that sets up. If not, we'll see. Honestly, since after earnings, the spreads have not been good on Microsoft, at least for my liking. You guys know I have a hard rule at 15 cents. Anything above that, I'm not really a fan of. It may not seem like a big deal, but I promise you, if you hit your stop loss and then you sell with wide spreads, that loss is going to be bigger than you expected. So as I always say, we are risk managers before traders. So even if that does set up over under 404.85, make sure you look at the spreads there. I definitely will look at the spreads. And then Palantir. So Palantir ended up breaking the range today. Uh, Nice little war here between the Bulls and the Bears. We ended up closing green. So for me, going into tomorrow here on Palantir, now I like the longs over 136.15. Remember, confluences. So the reason I like longs over that is you're over the previous day high and you're getting a break and retest over a key level. Bottom of the range before we get back to the top of the range. So if it's an inside bar day on Palantir, I'm pretty much just hands off there. Apple, this set up beautifully off the pre-market plan. What was that? Yesterday or 2 days ago. But we knew, oh, I'm sorry, off the weekly outlook, excuse me. Yesterday was only Tuesday. We knew 280. This was the key level. Right? I said, hey, this is our last key level before we see all-time highs. And you ended up getting a solid break and retest over that yesterday. It ended up holding today, and now we're already near the top of the range. I'm assuming we'll make all-time highs going into tomorrow, maybe even pre-market or after hours. So let's zoom out here on the 1 hour. Yeah, that's it. I mean, Apple, the trade's already happened. So there's really nothing here for me on Apple. If you want to look for a continuation play, I mean, you can look for the break and retest over all-time highs, but really nothing here on Apple. Apple's been a nasty name, in my opinion. I really haven't, what are we, 5 months into the year? So really haven't taken many trades on Apple. I think so far this year, I can count on one hand, maybe like 4 trades total on Apple. Just not much. I mean, when you look at this on the weekly, it's just not the cleanest name. It's not even really a trending name. Let's break this down. We went over this on the weekly outlook, of course, but you can see, forget all of this from last year. Just focus on this year. Apple hasn't done anything. We definitely have a weekly bottom here, but when you look at it, it's just done this. It's just done that. Does this look like a name that's trending? No, buyers definitely stepped up down here around this 245 area, 245.80 area. And then, we've just been straight upside, but it hasn't been a clean name. It's not a trending name. We finally broken structure, I would say. We've gotten over, this 280.40. We've made new highs on the year last week, and then we're pretty much near all-time highs. But this has been the nastiest climb, towards all-time highs. NVIDIA has been clean towards all-time highs. AMD, Amazon, SPY, Qs, but just very nasty here on Apple. Just not the cleanest name on the weekly. So really nothing here for me on Apple. At this point, you're really just looking for pullback long opportunities on this name. I think there's better names to trade. So the trade's already happened, right? You already got that break and retest over 280.40, and now we're already sitting near all-time highs. So really nothing there for me going into tomorrow. Like I said, you can definitely look for a long over all-time highs for a continuation play if you want. And then AMD, there's nothing here on AMD. There's nothing here at all. Crazy gap and go. This doesn't even look real. Like I said today in the close watch coming into market open, this is a name where probably just won't touch for a while until it comes back to reality. This name's gone, right? It's just been on a crazy rip. You had a crazy gap and go from earnings. We all kind of expected earnings would be good. And then even if you do, look to trade this name, look at the IV. I'm sorry, look at the price of the contracts. I mean, at least for calls, it's kind of crazy. And then even this, the IV is pretty high, sitting around roughly 90%. I'll give it, the benefit of the doubt that technically, it is the day after earnings, so I'm not too surprised on that. Tomorrow, I'm sure the IV and the price of the cons will come down a little bit, but still, nevertheless, there's no key levels up here. There's no key levels. You can definitely look for a long over the PDH for continuation higher. That's definitely been setting up. It's a name that's trending higher. If you take that, I would recommend just scaling down. I would not go in with like full size on that. We're just so high. That's not a trade I'm really looking for. Like I said, it's not a key level, but just be cautious. And other than that, that's it. So, when you look across the board, there's really not much. It's been a fairly slow week. Today we got some range breaks on Nvidia and Tesla. Today's Wednesday. I only took one trade this week, which was that. But other than that, it's just been fairly slow across the board. So my favorite play is going into tomorrow. Let's see what we do here on Qs. Right, Qs is always going to be the main watch because we know how much Qs can move on the intraday. This thing can move. It can rally. It can climb. It can trend hard. So Qs is definitely going to be the main focus here. We'll see what sets up there. If we can get a pullback long off at 394.05 and buyers can hold this, I like it. That's the higher probability shot instead of looking for a short off of that because you're turning this range into support. So if that sets up, we'll see. You got to read the price action. And then Nvidia. All right, let's see what Nvidia does. I would like to see really a continuation play. Who knows? We'll see what sets up. I would love for it to get over like 212.20. Maybe we can hold 206.80, but less is more. So for me, my main focus is just going to be 203 and 212.20. Hope this helps, guys. And oh, Palantir. I do like Palantir for a side watch. Right, we won't know until we know pre-market, but hey, if this thing can get over, 136.15, you're also over the previous day high, which means price is likely to continue higher. I like that. So those are really my main three. Like I said, nothing on Amazon that I like, nothing on Microsoft unless we get under 404. But even then, it depends on what the spreads look like. AMD, nothing there. Apple sitting near all-time highs. There's really nothing there. SPY and Q sitting nowhere near key levels. Really nothing there. It's just on a crazy rip. So we just got to be patient. This market's like due for a pullback eventually. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. It's not our job to predict it. But remember, you don't have to take a trade. Just got to be patient. Let our trades come to